It is Monday, the 24th day of April 2023, and this is the News International edition. We are coming to you live from our Vision Group headquarters here in Kampala, Uganda. I'm Emma Akwero. Today, let's start our news from Kenya, where the police have exhumed the bodies of 47 people thought to be the followers of a Christian cult who believed that they would go to heaven if they starved themselves to death. Police near the coastal town of Malindi have started exhuming bodies since Friday from the Shakahola forest. We have more.
Kenyan police said they had uncovered bodies of another 26 people believed to have been of a cult, bringing to 47 the number of corpses linked to the movement found in 3 days.
Who have been coming here, I can see none of us have seen our relative, but we are just...
On Saturday, police sources say 21 bodies had been exhumed in Kenya in a probe into a cult whose followers are believed to have starved themselves to death. Officials had earlier reported 7 deaths in connection with the investigation in eastern Kenya following the arrest of Mackenzie Nthenge, who reportedly told followers to serve themselves in order to meet Jesus.
When I get to search her phone, I see someone has told them they are going to see Jesus on date 8, and she went missing on date 7.
Nthenge, leader of the Good News International Church, turned himself into police and was charged last month.
It's basically meant that more out there who have seen this are afraid of coming out. So these are victims. These are not criminals. We need psychosocial counseling so that they can be, de-radicalized.
Nthenge, leader of the Good News International Church, turned himself into police and was charged last month. And according to local media, the 2 children had starved themselves to death in the custody of their parents.
She absolutely refused to, be administered with first aid, wanting to continue with her fast until she dies. And this basically signifies the magnitude of this issue.
We have visited some homes in some villages, such as Bethlehem and Judea. And in the villages, you find some parents have lost all their children, or they themselves die. Personally, I have visited about 18 grave sites of children.
Hallelujah.
He was later released on bail over 100,000 Kenyan shillings, an equivalent to $700. Police reported his arrest on April 15th after discovering the bodies of 4 of Nthenge's followers. Kenyan police said on Friday that they had exhumed 3 other bodies. 11 other followers of the church, the youngest just 17, were taken to hospital, 3 of them in critical condition after being rescued on April 14th.
Now, the latest coming from the crisis in Khartoum, Sudan, is that countries have begun evacuating their people out of the conflict-hit Sudan. Amongst them is South Africa. It's hard to get a full, clear picture of what's happening in Sudan because communications have been disrupted by the fighting. France, Germany, Italy, and Spain have been evacuating diplomats and other nationals from the country.
South Africa has begun evacuating dozens of its citizens who were trapped in conflict-hit Sudan. It's hard to get a full and clear picture of what's going in Sudan because communications have been disrupted by the fighting. France, Germany, Italy, and Spain have been evacuating diplomats and other nations from Sudan. Reports suggest things are relatively calm in the capital city of Khartoum as foreign countries have been rushing to evacuate their nationals. Internet connections remain largely disrupted across Sudan, with the people struggling into their second week. Battles reigning in Sudan have sparked multiple evacuation operations to rescue foreign citizens and embassy staff by road, air, and sea. The main airport in the capital city of Khartoum has been the site of heavy fighting and is under the control of the paramilitary rapid support forces that is battling the army. Many evacuations are taking place from Port Sudan on the sea, an 850 kilometers, 530-mile drive from Khartoum. Here in an overview of what various nations have done in efforts to take stranded citizens to safety. With Saudi Arabia, they have led the first reported successful evacuation on Saturday, with naval operations picking up more than 150 people. Riyadh announced the safe arrival of 91 Saudi citizens and around 66 nationals from 12 other countries, Kuwait, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Tunisia, Pakistan, India, Bulgaria, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Canada, and Burkina Faso. With the United States and Canada, on Sunday, the U.S. military sent 3 Chinook helicopters to evacuate American embassy staff from Khartoum. More than 100 U.S. forces took part in the rescue to extract fewer than 100 people, which saw the choppers flying from Djibouti to Khartoum, where they stayed on the ground for less than an hour. U.S. officials have warned that any wider efforts to evacuate American citizens is unlikely in the coming days. Canada has also pulled out its embassy team out, as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said
that any attacks, threats, dangers posed to our diplomats were totally unacceptable.
The British Army has evacuated UK embassy staff and their families in a complex and rapid operation, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said, as the British citizens will still be trapped in Sudan, have been calling on social media for help. The Norwegian ambassador said he and other Norwegian diplomats had also been evacuated, while Switzerland said 12 citizens had left with the help of other countries. Also, European Union Foreign Policy Minister Chief Joseph Borrell said that 1,000 EU citizens had been evacuated. France had airlifted 400 people of multiple nationalities to Djibouti. Among them were 25 Swedish citizens. The Netherlands Foreign Minister Wopke Kostri said a handful of Dutch people had been evacuated on French airlift, which another group leaving Khartoum by road in a UN convoy. Italy evacuated around 200 people in a military operation on Sunday, rescuing all Italian citizens who had also to leave, and other nationalities, including representatives of the Vatican. Greece said a first group of evacuees left with French help on Sunday and another group in the Italian operation. Berlin said it had airlifted 300 people, including Germany and other nationalities, following an aborted attempt on Wednesday. A Spanish military plane with 100 passengers, 30 Spanish and 70 other nationalities, left Sunday for Djibouti, Madrid said. The Irish government has deployed 12 defense personnel in Djibouti to help evacuate 150 citizens. Ankara began operations on Sunday, taking some of its estimated 600 nationals by road from Khartoum and the southern city of Wad Wadani. The UK government has insisted it's doing all it can to help British nationals stuck in Sudan after diplomats and their families were rescued yesterday.
Last night, the British military conducted an evacuation operation of British diplomatic staff and the dependents from Khartoum. Obviously, we couldn't have done this without the support of the French and the United States, where in our joint planning we helped each other, and I think it's really important that we recognise that this has been an international effort.
The safety and protection of British nationals in Sudan remains a priority for us, a top priority for us, and we'll discharge that duty through our embassies based in the area in close coordination with our international friends and partners. I would say to British nationals in the region, please register with us. We have circulated a link so we know who is there, where they are, so if an opportunity arises, we can find a way of helping.
According to the latest figures, more than 420 people have been killed and thousands wounded since fighting broke out on 15th April, though the actual figure may be higher.
Now, China says it respects sovereign state status of all ex-Soviet countries. This after Beijing's ambassador to France sparked outrage in Europe by questioning the sovereignty of those nations. It also responds to Australia's biggest defense overhaul in decades that vowed to deter China or any would-be, saying that it hopes some countries would refrain from using China as an excuse to expand their military power or groundlessly hype up the China threat theory.
Lithuania, Estonia and Latvia, the European Union, 3 Baltic countries summoned China envoys on Monday to account for Ambassador Liu Xiaoyin questioning the sovereignty of former Soviet states. In comments to French broadcaster LC1 on Friday, Liu said countries that emerged after the fall of the Soviet Union don't have effective status under international law because there is not an international agreement confirming their status as sovereign countries. The ambassador appeared to be referring not just to Ukraine, which Russia invaded in February 2022, but also all former Soviet republics, which emerged as independent nations after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. Beijing on Monday distanced itself from Lu's remarks while also defending its claimed neutral stance on Russia's war in Ukraine. President Xi Jinping has sought to act the peacemaker in the conflict as he seeks a greater role for China on the global stage. Even as Western leaders have accused Beijing of producing diplomatic cover to Russia, China respects the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of all countries and upholds the purpose and principles of the UN Charter. China's position on relevant issues remains unchanged. China's position on territorial sovereignty is consistent and clear. China respects the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of all countries and upholds the purpose and principles of the UN Charter. She accused some media of misinterpreting China's position on Ukraine and sowing discord in relation between China and relevant countries. The Soviet Union was a federal state that externally as a whole served as a subject of international law. This does not deny the republics after the collapse of the Soviet Union have the status of sovereign states. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, China was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic relations with relevant countries. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties, China has always adhered to the principle of mutual respect and equality to the development of bilateral friendly and corporate relations. China respects the sovereign status of all the republics and that emerged from the former Soviet Union after its dismantling. I want to emphasize that China pursues a national defense policy that is defensive in nature. We are committed in maintaining peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific region and the world and purpose no threat to any country. We hope that some countries will refrain from using China as an excuse to expand their military power or gradually hype up the China threat theory. Lu's comments last week sparked a wave of outrage across Europe, including in the UE's 3 Baltic countries. Lu has been summoned to the foreign ministry several times in the past, including for suggesting France was abandoning all people in nursing homes during the COVID-19 pandemic and for calling a respected China scholar at a French think tank a mad hyena.
Now, a Ukrainian drone has been found outside Moscow, an official said on Monday, adding that this led authorities to call off a Victory Day parade for security reasons. Moscow has accused Ukraine of being behind a number of drone attacks on military infrastructure deep inside Russian territory.
Today, Igor Zukin, the head of Bogorovsky city district outside the capital Moscow, said that a local resident had found a Ukrainian drone in the forest. Moscow has accused Ukraine of being behind a number of drone attacks on military infrastructure deep inside Russian territory. A similar drone was in February found in the town of Kolomna, around 100 kilometers southeast of Moscow, he added. Zukin said a planned Victory Day parade on 9th May had been cancelled in the community, as well as a concert linked to the festivities. Earlier, authorities in several border regions, including Belgorod, said they would also forego Victory Day parades. Russian authorities are, however, preparing to hold an annual display of military might in Moscow's Red Square to celebrate Soviet victory over Nazi Germany in 1945. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said. Separately, authorities said Monday that Russian forces had repelled a drone attack on the port of Sevastopol in Moscow-annexed Crimea. Meanwhile, in a neighborhood of Bakhmut, still holding out from the relentless Russian advance, a group of Ukrainian soldiers scrambled to Russia comrade bleeding out of his back to the underground shelter, where paramedics hook the ever-growing number of wounded up to intravenous drips, pouring over their injuries in the basement gloom. in rare images filmed inside the eastern city, which has become a site for the longest and bloodiest standoff of Russia's invasion. AFP was able to follow Ukraine's soldiers defending Bakhmut streets, dodging artillery fire and scrambling through the rumble left by heavy shielding as they go.
And we've come to the end of our international news this afternoon. We'll be back again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you for watching and do have yourselves a good evening.